it doesn't feel like they're slowing down. They have the craziest run differential. They're averaging over 6 runs per game, which the average total in a baseball game is 7.5. So the fact that they're averaging around 6 is just banana land. Obviously, they're completely Marcus Semien is just playing out of his mind right now. You saw him even in the last couple of nights, just killing it. So although I do think that there's a little bit of value in betting the Angels at plus 900, it is hard to believe that a team like the Angels could actually win the division considering their history of mediocrity and, just not making the playoffs at all. So, yeah, I think the Rangers continue to win this division. Minus 165, even though the value's not great, I think that they are the best team in their division.
It disgusts me to say this, but I still can't rule out the Houston Astros. Those cheating, trash can banging, awful, horrible villains at plus 190. Yep, there you go, Trysta. Just banging that imaginary trash can. Yeah, you probably have something in your place. There you go. You got like a cup. And just tap it. They're throwing a fastball. I can hear it. It's hard to still go against Houston, though. But this almost goes to, like we talked about the Denver Nuggets, right? And you said, well, people would probably, I think we all kind of agreed on this, right? More people would have taken the Nuggets seriously heading into the playoffs. They had the third best odds to win the title in the West as a 1 seed because they're the Nuggets, and we haven't seen them do that in the past. So there's a lack of confidence there. I think some of that does exist with the Texas Rangers, but as the season goes on, if they continue to look the way that they do, they got a run differential of plus 152. They're beating the hell out of teams. So it's not just it's not the Minnesota Vikings winning by a point. They're winning by a lot of runs every single game. So they're showing that we should take them seriously. But if it was Houston doing this, we'd feel more confident in them. But Houston also is, a World Series champion, pretty damn good, even with the cheating in their past, and really loaded with talent. So as the season goes on, I still have confidence in Houston. It's not like there's great value at plus 190 for them to win the division, but to get Houston at plus money, it's not horrible. I'm still on the Houston train, but I'm starting to believe more and more in the Rangers as the season goes on. Look, we certainly saw what happened, Trysta, with, the Suns and the direction they went, and then we see the other direction where a team like the Wizards decides, all right, we're just going to gut this thing and start from scratch. But there was the draft, and there were teams making moves leading up to the draft. Look, I see the Celtics as a big winner after all the dust has settled to this point. Adding Kristaps Porzingis, they've got 3 stars on that roster. Do I think they could beat the Nuggets next year in the finals? No, I don't necessarily think that with the roster that they have, but they did get better, and you're going to have to see some maneuvering with teams the rest of the way where it's, all right, it may be 3 and 14 deals just to make all this stuff work.
It just seems like when 2 couples are about to get a divorce, but everyone wants to keep their friends, right? That's what the Blazers and Damian Lillard are. They're like, I'm trying to keep the friends. I'm the good one here. I'm not the one that pulled the trigger on this, so you're my friend, right? NBA fans and fan base. That's what they're doing. And I think we're starting to get to the point where one or the other is going to be like, you know what? I don't care what people think. I'm ready to move on. And it feels like the Blazers are there more so than Damian Lillard as far as saying it publicly. Like you said, they're taking the billboard down. Really? They drafted the guy that's going to wear 00, right? Okay. And they're drafting your position and they are keeping guys, who are showing signs to have value on the trade market. Think about it. If they were planning on keeping Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, right? Someone you could get a veteran at a different position for. So you could kind of bring in Scoot Henderson and say you're doing this thing. Or Shaedon Sharpe had an excellent rookie year in the sense of value on the trade market. If you were keeping Dame, you were going to draft Scoot Henderson, then you could have moved those pieces and kind of got some veterans. John Collins on the market for $2.50. He went for a second rounder, and Rudy Gay. Even I was like, wait, Rudy Gay has another year on his contract? Rudy Gay is my age. What's going on here? You know what I mean? So it's all of these things that if you're Dame, you're like, we're not going to get drafting these young guys. We're developing. Come on. Everyone knows it. We can all see it. And there are teams that would love to have Damian Lillard And you know what? The NBA would love to have Damian Lillard on the East Coast. I'll tell you that much.
I'm a realist. I'm a fan of Dame. I'm a fan of this team. But ultimately, it's a business, and you can't saddle yourself to make bad decisions as a team just because your star player, who has been very loyal to you, wants you to do things that may not be in the best interest of the team long term. Damian Lillard's 33 years old. There is no magical trade that's going to make this team a contender this year or next year. If Damian Lillard wants to go to a contender right now, it's going to be very difficult, right? Because it's going to take a lot to get him to a new team. The assets required, the players required, it's going to be a lot. It may not make his new team a contender. But do we really want to swing for the fences? Does this team really want to swing for the fences on a guy like Paul George or Zion? Both often injured, both not playing many games, and both making a lot of money just because it makes Damian Lillard feel fuzzy inside? No, I don't want Zion for 5 years, $200 million, just because it's what Damian Lillard thinks makes his team a contender. I love Paul George. He's one of my favorite players to watch. But Paul George, even Jerry West is saying, Paul George, you don't play any games. So ultimately, if there was no magic trade out there to make Damian Lillard happy, which would have been Mikal Bridges, right? They offered the number 3 overall pick, which is a potentially transcendent talent in Scoot. I said this to you at the break, maybe a couple of segments ago. I got a random out of the blue text from a current NBA GM that is not a Portland GM. And it's like, hey, Scoot Henderson's going to be a superstar. You should be happy. So they offered a transcendent home run player who would have been a number 1 pick in any other draft, and Anthony Simons, plus some salary filler for Mikal Bridges, and probably the number 23 pick as well. So 2 firsts and a guy who's a 25-point scorer a night. And they said no. So if it's either getting fleeced or no trade, I don't want my team to saddle themselves in debt with an aging star. You need to make the right decision, and that's Scoot. So if the trade doesn't exist that helps this team create that really good timeline to build for the future where it makes sense to re-sign Jeremy Grant, you've got Mikal Bridges, and you've got Shaden, and you've got Dame, then hell, fine, call it a day. See what you can get for Dame. That's where I'm at.
Well, it's even gotten to the point, too, where there's people saying, oh, well, Draymond Green, they may be interested in Dray. I'm a big fan of Draymond. He is the defensive anchor for the Warriors. He's not making any team a contender. He can make a team better defensively. He's a great focal point offensively.
33.
Exactly. And you get to the point when you start building a team with guys that are into their 30s, multiple years past their 30th birthday, you start giving yourself a smaller and smaller window where Portland is. And I'd be curious to know what their mindset would be. Let's say Portland had the 5th pick or the 6th pick. Maybe they're more willing to move that and then try to build around Damian Lillard than when you're getting somebody like Scoot Henderson, who can be a transcendent player, who in most drafts would have gone number 1 overall. So sometimes it's also just about the position that you're in, where you get lucky. You move up in the lottery and you get an opportunity to draft a really, really, really good player, potentially transcendent talent. And then Portland says, you know what? This is the perfect time for us to rip that Band-Aid off and move on. I mean, you made the comparison earlier, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers. Yeah, and Brett Favre still started multiple seasons before Aaron Rodgers actually was a starter there. But didn't Green Bay get a little bit lucky? Aaron Rodgers could have been the number 1 pick in that draft. Going to San Francisco, fell all the way to the end of the first round. Green Bay pounces on him and gets to wait. So, in some ways, Portland's just in a really good spot where it happened at the right time, and you get Scoot Henderson, you have the number 3 overall pick, and you say, now's as good a time as ever. Let's get a little bit younger. Let's go with the Oklahoma City Thunder model and say, let's build a bunch of young, talented players together. Let's have them all come up, get them well coached, and then be in a position in a couple of years to have something that's not short-term success with a Paul George that could last maybe 2 seasons before he starts to age out and Dame starts to get older and starts dealing with more injuries like he did a couple of years ago. Instead, now you've given yourself a bigger, longer, wider window with an opportunity to keep guys there long-term if they're happy, like Dame has been, and then you can build on that and become maybe a legit contender down the road, but you've got the longevity, which you wouldn't have if you started thinking short-term now.
Here's what I would want. If I'm Portland, I want Cam Johnson. I want Nick Claxton. I want maybe something with the salary filler, whether that's Joe Harris or Spencer Dinwiddie. I want multiple picks. I want Brooklyn's 26th second-round pick. I want their first-round pick. I want Phoenix's first-round pick that they own in 2027 that's unprotected. I want the first-round pick swap in 2028, which is more favorable for Portland. So I want Cam Johnson and I want Nick Claxton, 2 guys who will play right away, positions of need, and I want them to also take Yusuf Nurkic. That, to me, is the deal that makes sense, where you now have a starting team of Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton, and maybe, I don't know who the 4 is. I don't really care at that point. Maybe Cam Johnson's the 4, and you start Shaedon at 3, and maybe it's Anthony Simons at 2 or Scoot at 2 and Anthony Simons at 1. So now you've got a really potent athletic team with some depth, and you've got a real rim protector who is in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. He's very young, very athletic. Now you've got all arms. Now you're really, really got a lot of picks for the future too. That's the trade for me that makes the most sense. And then what is Brooklyn though? They're just Mikal Bridges and Dame, and Spencer Dinwiddie.
Yeah.
That's are you that much better than Portland now?
And then at some point, if you're Brooklyn too, you're getting older. I mean, think about it. You're also becoming an older team, which doesn't help you either. So it's easy to throw these around. Miami on paper makes sense because they're in a win-now position. On paper, if you're keeping Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, but that's, again, what do you then give? What the hell are you giving back to Portland? But that's what you're hearing in the conversations, right? It's, well, they want to pair him with Bam and they want to pair him with Jimmy Butler. Well, of course, Boston probably wants to pair Dame with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and everybody else. So, it becomes a situation here where you kind of just look and go, it's hard. It's hard to make this deal actually go through where it makes sense for either side.
Wee-oo, wee-oo, wee-oo. Wee-oo, wee-oo, wee-oo. Alert, alert, alert. Sean Highkin, who we had on last week, who reports on his own Substack, and he's got tremendous coverage. Statement from Blazers general manager Joe Cronin to Sean Highkin. I met with Dame and his agent Aaron Goodwin this afternoon. We had a great dialogue. We remain committed to building a winner around Dame. Doesn't look like Dame.
So why'd they take the statue down? Why'd they take the
three-headed monster on the front of the Rose Garden?
Yes. Listen, I don't know how they're going to make that work, but if that's the way the team is going to look and you're going to have all those guards, they're going to be fast, and it's going to be true positionless basketball. Do you believe it, though? Honestly, do you believe that that's truly the case, or do you think that that's smoke?
I actually think it could work. I do. I think you've got a guy in Shaedon Sharpe who's 6'6", 6'7". He's probably not done growing. He's got a crazy vertical. He's got really, like I said, really long arms. So when you talk about positionless basketball or guys who are undersized, same thing what they say about Scoot at 2, right? Or Scoot at 1. Scoot has also got a positive wingspan, 6'9" wingspan, crazy vertical, which the only reason we talk about size on the perimeter for guards is because we think that they're either not going to be able to defend, or we think that their shot's not going to be able to get off, and that they're going to get blocked. And I don't think for Shaedon and Scoot that's a problem. That's really only a problem for Dame. So if you're talking about trading Anthony Simons, which I think they will, and re-signing Jeremy Grant, who has great length and versatility as well, I think that you could play all 3 of those guys together, trade Anthony Simons and maybe some additional players, and now all of a sudden you've got a much better, more competitive team. And Dame, you maybe say Dame, like there is no real favorite anywhere. So we're going to continue to build a team around you. And maybe they have a handshake deal with Draymond. Who knows?
Maybe. Draymond there would be interesting, that's for sure. It'd be weird to see Draymond not in a Warriors uniform. But, I mean, that Warriors team at this point now, we know you've got a new general manager. You just feel like that era is done. The book is closed on that. They may still be a playoff team, but I do find it harder and harder to look at the Warriors and say, like, this team can get back to where they were even just 2 years ago. So we'll see. I mean, the West is certainly the Nuggets and everybody else, but that doesn't mean the Nuggets aren't a team that can be knocked off the top. So that's good news for you. I'm happy. I'm happy that you're probably going to keep Dame in Portland, so he's going to be a Blazer for life, as I think he pretty much wants to be. So we'll see. Unless had a great dialogue, we remain committed to building a winner around Dame. So as of right now, it looks as though Damian Lillard will still be a Portland Trailblazer.
Hell yeah. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm okay with either direction. I'm just not okay with making bad deals to placate a 33-year-old star, who, by the way, is the best Blazer of all time. However, he is 33, and he's making $60 million a year. I think that's a lot. I think we've done enough.
Yeah.
And this team's committed to trying. I think that's what matters, is the effort, Ashu. You know what it is? You're married. Sometimes your wife just wants you to pick your clothes up off the floor. Just wipe the counter down. Just try.
Yep.
Even if you're not completely successful, just do a little scrub. Even if she needs to go back into the bathroom and clean up after you, just the attempt to do what she asked you to do is sometimes all that matters. You know what I'm saying?
It's just about speaking love languages, It's all about the love language. Do the dishes and help out with stuff around, and I keep myself in a good place. It's the way that it's all about effort. You're right. And look,